Good morning.
We're not coming to order yet, but I want to give you a 30-second warning. We're about to go live. Get dressed. Good morning. I'm going to call the meeting to order. This is our special budget approval meeting, June 18th, 2021. Welcome, everyone. We will be taking a roll call at this time, and I call on Secretary Brinkley to conduct the roll.
Regent Bale.
Present.
Regent Fall.
Present.
Secretary Brinkley is present. Regent Edmonds.
He's trying to log on. He's having some issues.
Okay. Chair Higdon.
Here.
Regent Henson.
Present.
Vice Chair McKinney.
Present.
Regent Milliken.
Here.
Regent Nichols.
Here.
Regent Spiller.
Present.
Regent West. Mr. Chair, we have 10 regents currently present, representing the quorum of the board. We'll update that as Regent Edmonds gets on.
Thank you, Secretary Brinkley. Shout out to Regent Milliken and Regent Nichols. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Zooming
morning.
in. Good, good. Todd, good morning.
Good morning.
Brian, good morning. Again, this is our special budget approval meeting. A little bit of hesitancy. I want to call on President Caboni for something.
Or something. First an announcement and then some recognition. But thank you, Mr. Chair. Some of you may have noticed, I hope you did, that yesterday President Joe Biden signed legislation establishing Juneteenth as a U.S. federal holiday commemorating the end of slavery in the United States. And the significance of this act should be celebrated by all members of the WKU family as we reflect on the importance of ensuring that the promise of freedom means freedom for all. And we announced earlier this morning that WKU will both add Juneteenth as an official university holiday to our academic calendar each year, but that this year, we're going to ask the campus to close on Monday, June 21st, in observance of Juneteenth. And so there'll be no classes and no meetings. And I encourage everyone in the community to separate from your daily routine and reflect on the significance of this day. So appreciate everybody pausing and reflecting on the decision that our Congress and the President announced earlier this week and yesterday evening. Now on to a special recognition. This is always, Mr. Chair, bittersweet. I've had the privilege of working with you for the past year and a half as chair, and you have served on the Board of Regents for 12 years ably. This is your third term as chair of the Board of Regents. And many people don't know this, but Regent Higdon is the only person in WKU's history to have served 3 terms as chair of the board. And we have had, as an institution, so many significant accomplishments during his leadership. I just wanted to remind everyone of some of those, because I think they're remarkable. During his terms as chair, WKU opened a new education building. We broke ground on an alumni center. We opened a new music hall, renovated the student union. We had tremendous exponential growth in our nursing program. We moved from the Sun Belt to Conference USA. We opened the Honors and International Center. I know this was a special one. We won our first Conference USA football championship and finished ranked 24th in the nation. We graduated our first class of Doctor of Physical Therapy students. You managed through a presidential transition, only have had 9 of those in our university's history. You launched a revamped scholarship program, including the Hilltopper Guarantee and Border Scholarships. During his chair, we removed at least 7 buildings from campus. We're going to complete the First Year Village, open and dedicate a new College Heights Foundation building, the Cliff Todd Center. Works at WKU opened during his tenure as chair. And lastly, if not most importantly, we navigated one of the largest challenges in our university's history, coronavirus, and have emerged on the other side stronger and well-positioned than we did going in. And the most important accomplishment, and it's the reason that we're all here, Regent Higdon, your signature appears on nearly 20,000 alumni diplomas. What a remarkable term of service you have had. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your friendship, your guidance, and your good counsel. People don't know how lonely these jobs are sometimes. And I'm so thankful for having ear to bend and someone to listen to me complain, to celebrate with me the things that we have to celebrate privately. And most importantly, for the 24-hour rule, where we don't act on something until we pause and think and make sure we're doing the right thing. And during your term of service, you've had strong, stable leadership for this university. And on behalf of the entire community, I want to thank you and Nancy, because none of this happens without the support of a spouse. Nancy, thank you for all you've done for Casey and for me and for this institution, for supporting Freddie, for the long drives up and down, for the Thursday night dinners, for the cooking at the house that I've been invited to partake in, and for your friendship. We will miss seeing you at these meetings, but we won't miss seeing you because we know you're going to be right back at the Hilltopper Club for football season and big supporters. So to both of you, thank you. The spirit lives among both of you in a way that is remarkable, and we thank you for your service. Go Tops.
It's hard to find a gift for a chair that has served 3 times. You can't bring gifts, but I think this is a very special, significant gift that will remind you of the Hill.
Thank you. President Gamoli, thank you for those kind words. I just want to make one brief remark. First, thank to all my fellow board members for your support, collaboration. I look at the history of the other board members that I've served with, outstanding individuals, which leads me to a comment that I want to make, and hopefully I won't emotionally break up a little bit, but I remember arriving in 2009, feeling the privilege and the honor for the opportunity to serve on this board. And several folks gave me the same words of wisdom that I want to reiterate and pass along to my fellow board members and to the administration. And those words were 3 simple words: be all in. And so with Nancy, we have tried to be all in. And so I encourage all of you to always be all in. Take every opportunity that you can to immerse yourself in whatever activity that this university allows you to participate in. The rewards are tremendous, and I can assure you, time passes quickly. So 12 years have gone quickly, and it's been an honor and privilege to serve with you, for you. I've had the opportunity to serve with two great presidents, President Gary Ransdale and now President Tony, as well as two fine first ladies. And I would be remiss if I didn't especially acknowledge Julia McDonald, because she and I showed up at the same time. She's been a tremendous, tremendous steward of this board of regents. And so Julia, thank you, Tim, and thank you all once again. It's been my privilege. We will proceed to the Finance and Budget Committee section. Chair Kenny.
Okay. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce everybody to Jessie Napier. She's our new Director of Internal Audit. She comes to us with great internal audit experience from Vanderbilt and University of Tennessee. So if you get a chance at the break, introduce yourself for everybody. Yes. All right, so FB1, approval of the operating budget. Yes, that's first. Start with the ours.
Can I get the flipper maybe? We always have technical difficulties with the budget. So before we get started with the presentation, as I was telling Jason earlier, it'll be a full presentation, but really not much has changed since we presented the budget in May. So I think it was helpful, Jason, for us to have those pre-budget workshops, giving the board the opportunity to really drill down into the budget. I also had the opportunity to meet with Shane and David to go over not only the budget, but other items, and I thought that went well. Got a lot of questions out of the way, so I guess we're still waiting on the
Anthony's going to get it. If you want to call it out, I can do that as well.
Okay, well, you can, let's go ahead and move to the next slide. So what I'll be covering this morning is just a quick outline of the development process itself. Just going over a high-level budget summary, some highlights on the revenue budget, highlights on the expenditure budget, the budget balancing strategies, capital budget highlights. And I know that Brian Russell is on Zoom if we have any specific questions on those, and basically the next steps as we move forward. So next slide. Next. So first off, let me say, and I know we always like to think we do this, but we really do here at WKU. We have a very campus-wide representation during the budget, involvement and collaboration, and I can say full transparency in the budget. So next slide. So I've showed you this flow chart before, but just a reminder, again, the collaborative budget process. You see that all the budget committees and how they operate, talking back and forth, as well as our campus constituents, our faculty and staff senate, and our student government association, and then how those work to frame the budget. The budget then goes to campus leadership, which then comes to the board of regents. Next slide. So a quick review of the timeline once again. We started working on the budget in November with the campus governance committees and the campus constituents. And again, you see how we work through going through the budget request with the operating allocation committee, and then how the OAC makes recommendations on fixed costs up to the BEC, and then on to campus leadership. That went in early May, and then we started having basically pre-budget workshops with the board, and then bring the final budget today for your approval. So next slide. And so this just gives you a flavor. I'm not going to go through all these names, but remember what I talked about, a campus-wide representation and collaboration. So this shows you the amount of people that are involved in this budget process. So if you hear word on the street that we don't have involvement, this shows you exactly the amount of involvement we do have. So this is the Operating Allocation Committee, which is currently co-chaired by Christy Smith, who you guys know, and Belinda Higginbotham, who is our current bursar, who is taking visa. So this will be her last go around with the operating budget. But you see all the representations that we have on the Operating Allocation Committee. This is the Capital Allocation Committee, and that's chaired by Brian Russell, our Chief Facilities Officer. And again, the wide representation that we have from faculty, staff, deans, and our campus constituents. And this is the Budget Executive Committee, which is chaired by Provost Stevens and myself. And just to kind of, this is the committee that really works through the guts of the budget. And so we have faculty senate representation, several deans, faculty, VPs, and again, our campus constituents. So just to go through some high level data on the budget itself. So for those of you who actually took the opportunity to read through the budget document, what we did, because fiscal year 21 was such a odd year as far as budgets go, because of all the one-time assumptions that were baked into that budget around COVID. So what we did, we would typically start with the prior year as a base, but we started with fiscal year 20 to take basically all the noise out of the budget. And so you'll see all the reference for fiscal year 20. So the change in the budget from fiscal year 20 to what we're presenting today is about a reduction of 12 million or 3%. And you see how those categories change. The large change in the auxiliary, just as a reminder, and I don't want to be duplicative, but most of that is related to when we outsourced our bookstore to Barnes & Noble. That was that large reduction. And this is how our budget looks graphically. So you can see most of our budget is in the unrestricted E&G and smaller in the restricted. And the restricted is made up of grants and contracts and the federal money that we get for to support scholarship Pell's. Moving on to the revenue, so you can see that the vast majority of our revenue, 69%, is made up of tuition and fees and state appropriation. But by and large, we're a tuition supported school, so almost half of our revenue comes directly from tuition. Again, and you can see that graphically, half of our budget from the tuition and fees. A few highlights on the tuition and fees. Our tuition is expected to increase slightly, basically as a result of several of the new scholarship programs that I know Dr. Planninn has and Ethan has gone over with the board before, the Hilltopper Guarantee, the WKU Family Scholarship, and the Board of State Scholarship. At this point, there's no need for us to be concerned. First-time freshman enrollment indicators as far as paid housing deposits and application fees remain strong, despite limited access that our admissions folks has had to high schools during the COVID year. And the really good news, I think, for our students this year, and I think that's what we need to focus on, is that the distance learning fee that was charged to students taking online courses that we paused during the current fiscal year, we permanently eliminated that. So that's great news for our students. So students aren't being penalized for modality changes.
Again, just as a reminder, the CPE or the Council on Post-Secondary Education has statutory authority for setting tuition. Typically what they do is they set a cap that institutions are not allowed to exceed. This year, they set the cap for 2 years at 3% and not to exceed 2% in any of those 2 years. So what we are recommending is a tuition increase of 2% for this year. And graduate tuition will remain unchanged because of basically recruiting issues. And so just remember that the 2% increase in tuition is less than the just the elimination of the distance ed fee. So this is what our state appropriation looks like. More good news there. So our base appropriation was increased by 757,000, excuse me. And that was the performance funding that we received in the current year. They built it into the base going forward into 22. We also received an additional 1.4 in performance funding that will most likely be built into the base for the upcoming year. You'll see that we also are funding for the Gatton Academy and the Mesonet remained flat. More good news from the state is that they actually, the KDRS contribution rate increased, but they kept everyone whole in the current year. So our budget was increased by about 3.6 million to cover that increase. That subsidy will go down to 50% over multiple years. Again, on the auxiliary, just as a reminder, auxiliaries are self-supporting units. They use fees or third-party contracts to generate revenue. Our auxiliaries combined to about 16 million. And again, as I mentioned earlier, the significant decrease in auxiliaries is a direct result of that outsourcing to funds note. Sales and services is a smaller part of the revenue budget. Again, they're self-generating, self-supporting. So any increase or decline is offset by a like increase or decline on the expenditure side. We're expecting for these activities to return more to normal than in the COVID year, basically because of a restart of athletic activities and events and rentals. So on the expense side, you see how that breaks down. Again, a large portion of our budget is personnel. So almost 50% of the expenditure budget is made up of personnel. And you see how all of those categories break down between unrestricted, restricted, auxiliary, and total. That just shows you graphically what it looks like. So most of the expenditures are down in all categories, with the exception of an increase of about 5 million having to do with our new scholarship program. Academic affairs is the largest division, which is, as it should be, we're an academic institution. That totals 156 million or 47% of our expenditure budget. The great news this year is that we were able to basically honor the recommendation of the BEC and actually add it to it. The BEC recommendation, if you remember right, when we presented earlier, was a salary increase pool of around 1.5%. We were able to, the BEC recommended a slight increase to the President's Strategic Initiative Fund. He made the recommendation that he chose not to take the increase to his strategic initiative fund. So we took those funds and moved it into the salary pool. So we were able to put the salary pool from 1.5 to 2%. Those salary adjustments will become effective January 1. And it's still to be determined how that salary increase will be distributed. It will be most likely a combination of compression, results of the compensation study, and some type of cost of living. So the president, the provost, and myself, working with campus constituents, will start working on that after July 1. Also, as part of the ramp process, the Operating Allocation Committee makes recommendations up to the BEC on certain fixed costs. These were the fixed cost increases that are included in the budget. About a $400,000 increase to IT for software contractual increases, some assistantships, 60,000 in the Ogden College, some funding for our marching band of 160,000, and again, a small increase to the strategic initiative. And this is how the expenditures by division breaks out. So you'll see the, again, the largest portion of the budget being in academic affairs. And that's how it breaks down by category within the various divisions. So to balance the budget this year, there will be reduction targets for the units of 5.8 million. Now that is, we're moving in the right direction because those reductions are going down over time. And these aren't new reductions, but basically reductions that were not made permanent in prior years. So it is going down. Academic affairs will have a target of 3.1 million that will be distributed out to the various academic units, and the administrative support units will be 2.7. Also, I think what's important for campus to understand, the COVID year was a difficult year. If you remember right, we had a $27 million target in the budget to reach. And a lot of the reduction was managed centrally, which meant restrictions on pro cards and constant monitoring of hiring and all of those things. These budget reduction targets will be managed at the local level by deans and vice presidents. So our purchasing office will be reaching out to deans and vice presidents to see how they want to manage those pro cards, but it will not be central management. It will be managed by the deans and vice presidents.
Susan, could I add just one note there? You all recall we've been talking about a budget imbalance for 4 years. We've made tremendous strides at bringing that number down, but to eliminate it requires making permanent reductions, not using one-time dollars. And so the expectation that we have is that those which are continuing numbers from previous years, the deans and vice presidents this year will make at least 50% of those reductions with permanent dollars in the coming academic year. And the other 50% will be made in the subsequent academic year, which means that in 2 years, we essentially will have eliminated those carry forward reductions. So getting us not just to full budget stability, but fully operational ramp model. So I know this is taking a lot of work, a lot of discipline among unit leaders, but we're finally at a place where, given the enrollment trends and everything, where we are on the upswing, and it is a very good place for us to be, particularly as we emerge from COVID.
So just a slide on our capital budget. So the total capital budget, about 65.5 million, and authorized projects in House Bill 352 is the demolition of the Tate Page Hall, the demolition of the Garrett Conference Center. Also, as all of you know, the renovation of the library, the Commons project. We have a capital renewal pool of about 10 million. And upgrading our infrastructure of about $1 million. And if Brian Russell is on there, Brian, do you have anything to add to the capital budget?
One I'd like to say is the numbers that you see here represented are the authorized or authorization amounts from the state of Kentucky. And as an example, demolished Tate Page Hall is actually less than $2 million. As an example. So these numbers in some of these were just authorization amounts. So if any specific questions, I'll be
that's a
happy
great
to answer.
point. So next steps going forward. The implementation of ramp. I think when I first started, we were talking about the process would be a crawl, walk, run. And as Dr. Caboni just said, with what we're going to be doing with getting our budget completely in balance, I think we're going to be in full run mode here. And So again, we will be working closely with the deans, Vice President Logan's office in setting revenue targets for the academic units. Really for RCM or ramp to work well, it really becomes a year-round budget cycle. And again, a long-term financial plan, which will go closely with what Dr. Caboni was talking about, getting our budget in balance, looking at a development of a long-term financial plan of 3, 5, and 10 years. Looking forward to the 23 budget, we will be presenting that initially to the Board of Regents in late April of next year, and with budget workshops in May of 22. So Jason, what we started this year, we're going to be continuing so. And we will continue the monthly budget monitoring that we started this year as a part of COVID. I think that's important. I think that's prudent financially to continue not managing the budgets for the deans and vice presidents, but to always monitor them. As far as payroll spend, procurement spend, the budget versus actual report that we bring to the regents, and quarterly cash and financial position monitoring. And then presenting reports to the president and provost on a monthly basis. And I will open it up for questions now.
Anybody have any questions? You, so it's okay. So you and I had already discussed this, but just to highlight in the revenue, you show the 13.6 million as carry forward funds. And you clarified for me that is from the budgetary savings from this fiscal year that we have not yet closed out.
Yes.
So would it be fair to say that as we look at this and the media continues to talk about this budget hole that we're trying to close, the savings we did last year, the deans and others will be using that money to bridge those gaps? Is that correct? So so then just to what do you think, and I know we have not closed out the budget year, and I know that'll come much later in this process, how much more carry forward do you think that we're going to have to close that out, just as a rough estimate?
Well, I mean, that's a great question, Shane. And when I've actually talked to Christy about putting together plans for future, being able to actually forecast what our carry forward will be at any point during the year. We should be able to have a forecasting model that will give us a good estimate of what that would be. Typically in any given year, our carry forward has been anywhere between 27 to 35 million. So the 13 million is a small portion of that. But really, as Dr. Caboni said, to make the ramp model fully functional, that's why you need to get the $32 million amount out of the budget, so that really all the carry forward then goes back to the academic units.
But the amount of carry forward we had this last year is substantially more than what we've had in previous years because of the tight budgetary controls that we put in place.
Right. That's what I would expect, yes.
No, not quite. Sorry, just thinking. I was just pausing to see if anybody else had a question. Dr. Caboni, could you speak to us just a little bit about how you think this budget helps you achieve our strategic plan? Any innovations in it or anything along those lines?
I do. I think that what we've talked about from the outset is the strategic plan being the guiding document and the budget model a support of that plan. And if you look at the $2.5 million that we will again have for strategic investment priorities of the institution, as we announce next year, where it is we're going to place our efforts and our emphases. We'll continue to work on recruitment, retention, and graduation. People ask what the vision is for the university. I've been very clear since before I even started. We were going to be a student-centered applied research university. And so we will continue that student-centered approach. The additional $5 million in discount for student scholarships, I think, continues our commitment to making sure that BKU is accessible and affordable for every student, no matter their family's economic needs. On the research side, as we exit COVID and the federal government creates opportunities for funding, we've had some tremendous wins. 2 announcements of almost $2 million each federal grants in the spring semester. We're going to continue that momentum and grow the portfolio of sponsored research. And that's going to require some additional investment. And then lastly, and I think this is crucial for everyone to understand, In the 4 years since I've been here, we have created 6% in salary increases in those 4 years. It took 7 years for us to create 7% of increases before I got here. And so we're accelerating the investment in our people and our programs. And my hope and my expectation is that we'll be able to continue that type of moderate yet regular increases to our salary pool. We have to continue to do that with inflation and being competitive in the marketplace. And then the last comment is you will see during the coming weeks and months, the institution begin to reconceptualize itself as a result of VSIP, the Voluntary Separation Incentive Program. As individuals who have been with us have decided to take advantage of that, I've asked leadership to reimagine how their organizations function. And we've already had a set of announcements from marketing communications about their reorganization where they've rewarded performance and elevated some folks. Athletics has taken an internal approach to reorganize and rethink itself. We've done had similar activities in philanthropy, and David Brinkley is undertaking a complete overhaul of how public media is organized. And so I think that what you're seeing is a budget that, while it requires discipline, also shifts our focus to the places where we need to invest and creates opportunities for rewards.
I don't want to hog the conversation, so somebody else has a question. I would like to just kind of go on record here that how tough this last year was. And when we have that much carry forward, to recognize how we generated that. And the way we generated that was through tight budgetary controls that quite honestly at times shifted the cost of the activities that the faculty and staff were doing to the faculty and staff themselves. That I've talked to staff who said they had to work from home and they were afraid to ask for reimbursement for things because the budgetary controls were so tight that their department chair or their dean felt like they couldn't get it. And so, whatever cameras they needed or other things they bought, that like me personally, as I bought things and they didn't work, and I tried other things, I didn't ask for those things. So, that carry forward money, not the money that we're talking about here, because obviously it has need, but as we finalize that and we move into the closing out of the budget, thinking about again, how can we invest in innovation? How can we invest back in our people? And I don't know if this is even like a one-time payment to faculty and staff of $500. Think about it as a retention bonus. If you were here in January when COVID started and you were still here when we closed out the budget in 21, here's $500 for all of the expenses that we know you took on for yourself. And thank you for being here and staying here. Something along those lines. But at the same time, we have to find a way to spur innovation. And the innovation that we have encouraged in budget cuts for the last 15 years that have been imposed on us have been innovation and budget cuts. And we need to find a way to grow out of this. And as we hire on new deans and new provosts, hopefully the first thing we don't tell them is, okay, welcome, now cut your budget. Maybe welcome, here's some innovation funds. Maybe it's setting aside some of those funds into an innovation account and allowing faculty and staff to apply for those. Just something more creative, innovative to tie to our strategic plan. All right.
Jason, can I just mention one thing? I would be remiss if I didn't. I really want to recognize Brian Denning. He really stepped in at a time when I had turnover amongst the budget staff and just really did a great job stepping in at the last minute and pulling this all together. So I just really want to thank Brian for the work.
Building on that, I want to thank all of you because this has been the most inclusive and transparent budget process that we've had since I've been on the board. It really helps us to accomplish our fiduciary duties. We can be involved up front rather than right before. So, thank you guys for slowly improving and getting us to the point where we need to be. So, thank you guys. Anybody else have any comments or questions regarding the budget?
Real quick, since my name was mentioned, one of the things that we noticed through this process and several of you all know how critical and detailed I've been related to this planning process in this last year related to staff, faculty salaries. One of the big awakening moments for me was when we were able to craft a plan in public media and present it, and the idea that it would be accepted and we would be allowed to manage ourselves out of some of the issues that had been created over the last decade and a half, right? So the empowerment that comes to the full implementation of this for the individual areas, for the deans, and for the divisions, I don't think that's being stated enough. It was something that I was unclear about until we saw it and how it might work in our own house. So I think this budget reflects a good step forward. I wasn't going to mention the 2% increase on the tuition, because I think when you looked at the idea that we passed on that in a very difficult year last year when we had the opportunity to raise it, so we would have had the opportunity to raise tuition twice. When you look at how that averages out, I think that the media has also misrepresented the idea that the 2% goes for salary increases. I think that's inaccurate. I think that it goes toward the budget, and the budget allocation of where salaries go. It's really up to the administration and how they distribute that money. So mine's not really a question, it's more of a comment of the more I educate myself and the longer I'm on this board, the more we see that there's a transitional time in this process that is slowly taking place. A lot of us want things to happen tomorrow. We want them to be immediate, but I tell people all the time, it's about the long game. Well, we're living the long game, and that's a piece that I don't think we focus on enough. So I appreciate everything that's gone into this process.
If I could comment what Regent Brinkley said, and it's a follow-up also to the innovation question. The notion that innovation is going to come from my office is a fallacy. The reality is innovation has to come from deans and vice presidents and department chairs and faculty and staff and bubble up. And I think that what you're beginning to see is what a budget model that decentralizes responsibility enables. It enables local leadership who is willing to take risks, to think creatively, to do new things, and be rewarded for it, beginning to take that action. And I appreciate that. It does take time. It is a complete mind shift in the way in which an organization functions, but with fresh eyes, willingness to risk, and an appreciation for not waiting to be told what to do, but to come up with what needs to be done on your own is where we're headed. And I'm really proud of the work and the accomplishment of the organization to move in that direction.
There's no further questions or comments, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the 2021-2022 operating budget.
Second.
Thank you, Linda and George. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, like sign.
Scared.
He was in favor.
All right, motion passes. And that's all we have for the Finance and Budget Committee.
Thank you, Finance Chair McKinney. I want to echo Jason's comments to Susan and her team, but I want to add to that and thank Jason personally for his inspiring leadership of the Budget and Finance Committee, efforts and time and commitment that he's put into it with his expertise. Confirmation of that is the comments made by Regent Spiller and Regent Brinkley. The transparency and the results and the direction are all very, very positive and motivation. And so, Jason, thank you for your stewardship. We'll next move to my agenda nomination committee report. Regent Nichols chaired that committee. So, Regent Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The nominating committee was made up of myself,
Regent McKinney and Regent West. And we are happy to unanimously recommend our slate of officers for the coming year. We are recommending Regent Phil Bell as chair of the board. We are recommending Regent McKinnon as the vice chair, and recommending Regent Ball as the secretary of the board. And I'd entertain any questions or ask for a motion of approval.
I think you said Regent McKinney is vice chair instead of Milliken.
I'm sorry, Milliken. Why would I think that you would correct me? Let me
You almost slipped that in there, Jason. That's
Sneaky.
I'm sorry. I guess I was thinking of who's currently the vice chair, but it is Regent Milliken.
So we have a report from the nomination committee tendering a slate of officers for the new year. Or any other comments, nominations, or reflections by other board members? And if not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
A motion by Regent Brinkley,
Second.
seconded by Regent West. Any further discussions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the proposed slate of officers, say aye. Opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. Thank you, George, and your team, Regent West and Regent, and
See, thank you.
thank you
Thank
for.
you, Chair, for helping me with messing up the names. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. I think this is your third term as chair of nominating committee, so thank you for all your work, and thanks to the committee.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes the nominating committee report. And there's no other items for our special budget agenda. I will direct the Regents to look at our upcoming calendar events. Special emphasis on your retreat for August 5th and 6th, a great time to be all in for your university and to understand the workings of our university. Faculty staff convocation on the 16th, your next committee meeting October 22nd, homecoming October 30th, December 10th is your quarterly meeting. Obviously, this is a special meeting, and so we're restricted on any other actions or business that we can take. So at this time, unless someone wants to specifically address either a follow-up question on finance or budget or the nominating committee, I think we prepare to adjourn. Hearing none, we are now adjourned. We're going to take a short break. President Kamali has a couple of commitments to communications. So we'll take a short break. When we come back, we will do our committee meetings. Thank you.
one that doesn't have period.
We'll get back to work. We now move into our committee meeting agenda for June 18th. The agenda has been distributed. There was one additional item posted to you, that is, we will have an executive closed session. It's the last item of the workload this morning, but to get started, we'll head into the Academic Affairs Committee. Chairman Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And before we begin, I want to thank the nominating committee of board members for their confidence in electing me to be the new chairman. It's a heavy weight and a big act to follow. Freddie and Nancy have become great friends of ours, and I'll say more about that in private with them. But I also want to not let this meeting get by without noting the recent awards that our WKU NPR radio station has accrued. Quite a sweep of many awards. David, you and your staff deserve a lot of credit and applause for that. So.
Appreciate it. The goal here is to set examples for students as they aspire to be storytellers in electronic media. And when we can claim as the only radio station in the Commonwealth to be #1 in overall excellence and to have the best reporter, in fact, 4 first place categories and 3 categories where we were first and second. I mean, that's good for all of the students here. It's good for our communities. So we're happy to have claimed overall excellence. We're appreciative of the support of the board and the university in enabling us to move forward. Thank you.
I think it's fair to drag that into the Academic Affairs Committee. We're going to share some of the glory of that. So I do have Provost Stevens with us, and we have 4 items to discuss. Quite a variety. I think it speaks to the versatility and diversity of a major university to have this number of varied certificate programs that have been applied for. And with that, Provost Stevens, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you and good morning. We have first on the list is an approval of a Bachelor of Arts in Legal Studies. And I saw Eric Reed here. Eric and Scott Lastly, both representing the history, and one representing the history, Eric Reed, and Scott Lastly from Political Science to talk about this program. Eric?
Hi, good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. Thanks for having us this morning. Scott Lastly and I are here to present the Bachelor of Arts in Legal Studies. We're excited about this program. It's easy to talk about because I think it's going to be a real win for us and for the university. I'm going to describe the program and offer you a few comments and then ask Scott to do the same. So this is a Bachelor of Arts in Legal Studies. Overall, it will be 36 credit hours, half of which is going to be a core curriculum in the history and political science departments. And the other half will be electives that are really broadly interdisciplinary. We're going to offer electives and coursework in 11 different departments across 4 colleges. So it really is a broadly interdisciplinary major that can draw students and prepare students in a lot of different ways. The goal of the curriculum is to create a very broad skill set for students. Students will do all kinds of interdisciplinary methodologies as part of the core curriculum and the electives. They'll learn analytical critical thinking, research and writing skills. They'll engage in independent scholarship. So all of these things that a really strong liberal arts degree will build. And in fact, the curriculum forces students to be extremely broadly interdisciplinary because they will have to major or minor in another discipline. So for these reasons, we think it's a really good curriculum design. I also want to add some comments about the demand for this program, because I know things like demand and the return on investments, the sort of budget effectiveness of new programs is an important consideration. We think we have very strong internal student demand. This new program is built on a very strong minor that currently averages about 66 students a year in it. So it's a very large minor. We've surveyed these minors, and 80% of them, a little more than 80% of them said that they would major in legal studies if it were available to them. So we have strong internal demand. We also believe that students who aren't in the minor would consider this major, because we have around 60 to 90 students a year take the law school admissions test. And we think that people who want to be lawyers, go to law school, will be a natural audience for this minor. So already 60 to 90 students a year are taking this law school admissions test. So internal demand looks very good. We also think it will have good external demand and draw students to WKU who might not necessarily come here without this program. Only Northern Kentucky University has a similar liberal arts program that's designed somewhat similar to ours, although I think ours is going to be better. And so we're optimistic that we'll not only serve students in our region who currently don't have this kind of program, but we'll draw students who might not necessarily come here otherwise. Last thing, I'll just offer a brief comment on the issue of return on investment. And luckily for WKU, we can use existing faculty resources to teach all these courses. They're already on the books. They're already being filled by students in the legal studies minor, and we expect strong enrollment. So we think this is not going to cost us a lot of extra money to offer this new curriculum. Thank you. And I'd like to ask Scott to make some comments as well.
Just to follow up briefly on what Eric had to say, and he touched on this a little bit, but we do think that the curriculum does provide outstanding preparation for law school and graduate school, of which we've already done a really good job. And one of our alums is over there in the corner. I had to put it up proud that Andrea is a political science major years ago. But in addition to preparing people for law and graduate school, we've emphasized the core competencies that that employers are looking for. Things like analytical reasoning, critical thinking, communication, working with other folks. There's a significant emphasis on community engagement, ethical judgment, cultural competency, global literacy. And we've already seen that a lot of our minors that don't go to graduate school find success in the private sector, and then also certainly public and nonprofit sectors as well. And so we anticipate that this is going to be excellent preparation. The other thing I think that we don't think enough about is also how this major will complement work with other majors. There's a lot of research out there that suggests two majors is better than one. And this is going to be not just a tremendous first major, it's also going to be an excellent second major and complement not only what we have in Potter College with criminology and history and political science and communication, but it would work very well with economics, the Bachelor of Arts, forensic psychology, those type of things. And then really want to emphasize this is part of a larger umbrella, that one of the things we're trying to think is why WKU? Why would somebody choose if they're interested in legal studies or some of these topics, human rights or public affairs? Why would they choose to come to WKU? And we think this offers them that argument for it. That's part of a larger umbrella that we're emphasizing in Potter College, that this will complement. We just recently changed the name from paralegal studies to professional legal studies. And so we're gonna have this legal studies umbrella where we'd have this liberal arts major, the more applied professional legal studies, but we also have a competitive mock trial program, our pre-law advising honor society. And so this is something I think that will really set us apart from a lot of others. Think about pre-law or thinking legal areas or human rights. This is a much bigger program. I think will help us in that area. Eric and I are more than happy to answer your questions. Carol can probably answer them as well. Any comments or questions from anyone on the committee or the board? We do have all our committee members present this morning. President Bowman.
Regent Vale and to the faculty involved, thank you. This is another wonderful example of what happens when we turn a critical eye to ourselves and think about what it is we can build and do and why WKU. And I just think it's an outstanding example of thinking about, as a first step, what are the resources we have? How do we maximize those in a way that's good for enrollment, good for our intellectual positioning in the Commonwealth and the region? And then building upon that, how do you continue as you grow to attract additional investment, additional innovation into those programs? And so I just kudos to to Potter College and to the faculty involved. I think it's another exemplar of that kind of innovative thinking about market, intellectual distinctiveness, and creating opportunity for our students to have applied experiences. Outstanding work.
Any other comments? Certainly, I think all of these meet the spirit of the CAPE project and I think represent very innovative new things. If Curry, you're not, you're on mute. Saw your
Sorry.
mouth.
I'm sorry. I think this is a great addition, and I'm very pleased with this new major, and I'm happy to support it.
Right. If there are no other comments, I'll entertain a motion.
So move to approve the establishment of a Bachelor of Arts in Legal Studies.
Motion and a second from Regent Ball. Any further discussion, comments? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. We'll move on to our second action item, which is part of the athletics, I believe, Cheryl.
Yep, it is for the approval of the undergraduate certificate in athletic coaching. And it will be presented by Brian Myers, assistant professor in kinesiology, recreation, and sport. Brian?
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me. Hopefully you can hear me okay. So the athletic coaching certificate is a 12 credit hour, 4-course curriculum. If you can see that in front of you, we have, excuse me, 3 core courses and 1 coaching elective course that they can select from a short list of coaching opportunities. The 3 core courses include PE 290, which is a foundation coaching principles class where we introduce the basics and foundations of principles for coaching. We have a scientific-based conditioning, strength and conditioning class. And finally, an advanced principles of coaching course. So we have 2 distinct levels of coaching courses in this curriculum. We also have a short list of those sport-specific elective courses, making it a 12 credit hour certificate. So the certificate will serve to fill a need both in state and in the region, we feel. There is a need for young qualified coaches in this field, and a few statistics to help support that. The Bureau of Labor Statistics projects a 12% employment growth for coaches over the next 10 years. So over the next decade, opportunities for employment for coaches will grow by 12%. Part of that comes from the Kentucky High School Athletic Association, or the KHSAA, statistics that shows a growth in student athlete participation consistent over the past 3 years. And in fact, this past year set records for student athlete participation at 107,166 student athletes statewide, which is phenomenal. That's up 7,523 student athletes from 2014, which is a 7.2% growth. So great statistics and growth numbers there for participation statewide. KHSAA also demonstrates an increase in school-sponsored sport offerings. Currently, they offer 13 traditional sports like your football, volleyball, basketball, soccer, your traditional sports that we're used to, but also 6 sport activities they're called, like bowling, fishing, competitive cheer, field hockey, and most recently esports and a couple others are also being offered. So increases in coaching opportunities, increases in student participation, student athlete participation statewide, and the sport offerings all kind of equal a need for additional qualified coaches into the field. And then finally, the Kentucky High School Athletic Association recognizes 2 levels of coaches currently, level 1 and level 2. Level 1 are current faculty, administrators, or school staff members, certified faculty or administrators that are holding coaching positions. So those are students who graduate and go through the teacher preparation program or administrative program. Level 2 coaches are all others, non-school employees. And those level 2 coaches have to obtain minimum industry standards through online coaching classes like fundamentals of coaching, sport safety, rules and regulations in Kentucky, et cetera. Our certificate program will satisfy those minimum industry standards to become a level 2 coach and compete for those level 2 coaching positions statewide. And the last thing I'll say is this certificate program requires no additional faculty, no additional resources or equipment. We feel that we're sustainable with the faculty and resources that we currently have. So we're excited about the opportunity and look forward to your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Comments, questions from anyone? I'll make one comment, and this won't surprise people, but I do hope that as part of the curriculum, whether it's in the scientific base or conditioning, that we include a segment on the importance of sleep with athletics. Coaches today that are familiar with sleep research are making a big deal of that, and the new mantra is not practice makes perfect, but practice with sleep makes perfect. So I do hope we can incorporate something about the neuroscience behind athletic performance and sleep.
Sure, I can tell you that there is a module in there that we talk about coaches taking care of themselves and avoiding burnout through some of what you're talking about there. Taking care of themselves as coaches first. Absolutely.
Anyone else have any comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Motion from Regent Brinkley, and a second from Regent Spiller for approval of the undergraduate certificate in athletic coaching. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those like sign. Motion passes. Move from athletic coaching to floristry.
Yeah, we have an undergraduate certificate in floristry. Roger texted me early this morning and reminded me that very shortly after I came here as dean that we had brought the first minor in floristry to you. And now as I'm leaving, we have the certificate in floristry. So Roger, you're up.
Thank you, Cheryl. And thank you for inviting me to be here. As a process of the CAPE committee, it was suggested that we switch from a minor in floristry to a certificate program in floristry, which makes perfect sense due to the circumstances that we can reach out to people in the community as well as in other states to get a certificate in floristry at this time. One of the things that's happening in this industry, since I have been very involved in the industry all across the United States, is we've had a reduction in trained people who can actually do floral design. And in the past year, I probably get as many as 4 or 5 calls a week wanting to know if I have any students that would be available to come and work at various different floral shops around the state and even other states. This industry has also went toward more in the hospitality management, interior design, hotel, restaurant management, in which this program, we will be going across disciplines and working with the Department of Applied and Human Services, and they will be using this as part of their program for their students to get a certificate in floristry. I'm very involved in the Kentucky Florist Association, Tennessee State Florist Association, and also the American Institute of Floral Designers, which I'm a certified member of. And within those programs, we are going to be able to advertise and hopefully get people to come in to do the certificate in those particular areas. It's been very well received, especially by the Tennessee Florist Association. I've been talking with them, and even several of the owners of florists or floral designers there are interested in coming and taking this program, which is great. I think the numbers are going to be very strong, because there has already been a lot of interest. I've been putting it out there for the last year to people, trying to get people to understand what we're doing here at the university. I think the CAPE committee had a very good suggestion of doing this, because I believe the enrollment will increase quite a bit in this program. So that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you all for your time. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions, comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval of a certificate in floristry.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Regent Brinkley and a second by Regent Spiller. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Our last item concerns a certificate in Spanish language.
To present that, Alex Poole, I believe is here. Alex?
Hello, everybody. We know from our research, nationally, internationally, and locally, that the ability to speak with some fluency another language is vital for individual progress, but also the growth of our country. An interesting report done by the American Academy in Arts and Sciences showed that in the United States, our lack of bilingualism hurts us politically, hurts us economically, hurts us diplomatically and militarily. At the same time, as department head and as faculty, we have found that a lot of students do actually want to pursue another language. However, many of them are already in very credit-heavy programs. So they want to go into healthcare, they want to go into engineering, they want to go into business. And they like Spanish and they recognize the value of it, but they don't have the time in their schedule to take a minor or a major. And Spanish and all of our languages are like those other credit-heavy majors. You have to devote a lot of time and attention, and usually you'll have to do at least a semester abroad. Combined with another major for many students, unless they come in with a lot of credit hours already, that's practically impossible. We also know that Spanish is a special language in the United States. It's not like other languages. It is the second most spoken language, and the United States is probably the largest Spanish-speaking country in the world. You can go a couple feet from here, half a mile, speak Spanish. That doesn't happen with any other language. We have a need in our society for teachers who have some ability to speak Spanish because of the number of students in our schools. We have the need for nurses who speak some Spanish because of the number of Latino patients that they have. And we certainly have a need for people who work in commerce and business, have some proficiency with Spanish when they travel and they work with international customers. This certificate finally also is part of the strategic plan. We're offering concrete short-term credentials to our students that they can take and use in those positions. The certificate consists of 18 hours. The students can complete it in 3 semesters, or excuse me, in 5 semesters or 6 semesters. It doesn't overload them, but it gives them the ability to function, and it gives them the confidence to continue learning the language after they leave college. And maybe even some of them want to pursue it even more for a major or a minor. It does not require no more resources. These are courses we already have in place.
Good, thank you. Questions, comments?
I appreciate you linking it to the strategic plan.
Here, here.
And again, all of these programs mold with CAPE, ultimately with RAMP and the other initiatives. All right, if there are no other questions. Regent Spiller.
Second.
And second by Regent Brinkley. Any further discussion? Not all those in favor say aye. Aye. Like sign. So all of these requests are approved. And before we close the Academic Affairs Committee, I want to make notice of the fact that this will be Provost Stevens' last academic committee, and she has decided to retire at the end of this month and move on to life after academia. She stepped into this role at a important, difficult time of the university, and has been great for me to work with, and I think deserves applause from everyone across the university. President Caboni, you might wish to comment about that.
Regent Bale, thank you. Provost Stevens, when I invited her, asked her, begged her, I can't remember which words I would have used to step into this role for a couple of years. No one had any idea of the challenges that we would face. We knew some of them, but certainly not the coronavirus. And Cheryl, I want to thank you for your leadership of the institution. The way in which we navigated those decisions, I think, were exemplary. And I'm thankful for the work that you did to help us come through on the other side of this as we did. There were many times when you worked with and collaborated with the academic administration, but also faculty and governance to help us get to good. And as you well know, those are always challenging conversations. But I think that you did engaged in those conversations with grace and good faith. And the last is I'm personally thankful for the way in which you challenged me, supported me, listened to me, helped me not step into holes when possible, and guided the academic enterprise with great skill. And so we will miss your presence on a daily basis, but you're not going far unless you go on another 3-week trip across the country. But we are thankful for all you've done for our institution and look forward to your mentorship, certainly in the fall of some folks here as you have a culminating sabbatical and think about how it is you engage productively, but not necessarily every day at the university and the community. So Cheryl, thank you for everything. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Regent Spiller, Cheryl, before you making comments, I think Regent Spiller would like to pour on some accolades.
Do you think that's what? So, I would just echo those comments and then also say that we had the honor of attending some of the same meetings this last year in which we heard the fears of our faculty as they went into the unknown. Provost Stevens was open and transparent in every way that she possibly could, and was receptive to everything that the faculty said. They didn't always hear that, but yet many times her answer to the request they had is, we're already doing that. And if it's not happening, let me know where it's not happening, and I will look into it and find a way to fix that now. She is, the faculty advocate, and I hope that our new provost is the support of the faculty as we look for things to be, for academics to be at the forefront of what we're trying to do. So I do appreciate the work that she was doing there. I have a question for her. And before we yield the floor and before we let her, whatever farewell she wants to say, I didn't want to say this earlier as we were going through these action items, because I don't want to single anyone out. But in the 15 years that I've been at the university, and I've watched action items come to the Board of Regents again and again and again, and I've created some myself, including I was sharing with Jace Lux 15 years ago, I helped create the EDD, and as we did that, we were told a statement that we heard today again and again and again, and you see it in the notes that we see. This program is being done with no new faculty resources. And I'm wondering, have we done a program that you're aware of where we actually said, yes, we're going to put new faculty resources or other resources into it, or we constantly, because it's an unwritten rule amongst the faculty and the deans and department chairs that if you say, even if we got to buy a library book, it's probably not going to go through. So I just wonder if you could give us, as part of what you may say, some comments about the state of our academics, the state of the resources, where we are. So since you have no political action here, put her on the spot.
Thanks for putting me on the spot. Really appreciate that. I think that we have the framework to be an absolutely excellent university that provides a comprehensive and high quality engaged experience for our students. I think that VSIP will give us the opportunity to grow and to bolster and support some of the strongest areas that we have with potential for that growth. And I think that, I hope you all look very carefully at those areas that really could grow and that support the region in terms of their economic growth as well. Because we need to partner with the region better than we do. We need to be talking to companies who hire our students better than we do. But we have that potential. What we need is leadership and that doesn't mean President Caboni, that means at the college level, I think, to engage in conversations with people in the region who hire our students, people in the region who are interested in growing businesses. There's that innovation thing again. We should be more engaged in those things. And I think that thoughtful infusion of resources in areas that could just expand and fly are, and data driven. Of course, we have the Gray Associates platform, which I love and has helped us really put resources where our academic program growth could be. I think that our faculty are strong and they care, but they need to focus their efforts on, I think, not just the classroom. Many people say, I'm teaching my classes and I'm doing a good job. And for the most part, they are. But there's more to being a faculty member than just teaching classes. There's service to the institution. There's scholarship that's relevant and applied. And I like to think that as we move forward and are more critical about how we use our resources, that we can incentivize faculty appropriately and reward them appropriately as well. So, it's a big job. The provost position, it's a big job. It was interesting. I was in Montana. I met the president of University of Montana, just happened to walk by our table and I was having lunch with a colleague who works there. He's the vice president for research. And the president stopped to say hello. And we were talking about what we had done with respect to COVID and how our enrollment was going and some strategies we were using for just navigating academics. And he said, you know, our provost's position is very narrow. What we do with our provost, it's just academics. All they worry about, this person worries about is what's happening in the academic bubble. And at WKU, you know, we as a cabinet really get involved in all aspects of the institution, which is a much nicer, it makes it a nicer job, and the interaction between cabinet members and that trickle down into the staff and faculty at the institution, I think makes it a much more impactful and nice place to work. I've really enjoyed working here. I have thoroughly enjoyed meeting the people and working with my colleagues, and just, I love the institution. I was laughing with President Caboni a couple months ago, and I said, I love the circus. This is what I love. This university is the circus, and I love what we do. I love the mission. I love the students, the work every day. I love that. The sideshows, not so much all the time, but thank you for your comments, and thank you for the opportunity to serve in this capacity.
I think we all appreciate the view that much of the work over the last few years has positioned Western Kentucky University well to be one of the real success stories in higher education moving forward out of the economy, out of the pandemic. And Cheryl has 2 days guaranteed next year at the Old Faithful Inn in Yellowstone, which she can look forward to. And I think it's with gratitude that we appreciate the faithfulness that you've demonstrated toward our university.
Thank you, Philip. That was nice.
With that, Mr. Chairman, academic affairs committee business is concluded.
Thank you, Chair Bell, and thank you for a great year of service. Members of the Academic Affairs Committee. We next turn to our Finance and Budget Committee, Chair McKinney.
Okay, I've been asked before we get into the agenda for a deeper introduction to our internal auditor, Jesse. Jesse, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for the warm welcome I've had so far. For those of you I've gotten the pleasure to meet at this point. So a little bit about myself. My name is Jessie Napier, as mentioned, and I'm a certified internal auditor. I'm originally from White House, Tennessee. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that area, but I've met a few people that are so far. And I attended the University of Tennessee, where I majored in accounting and actually worked as a student auditor during my tenure there, and began my career full-time right after graduation, working in the internal audit office. About 4 years ago, I decided to move closer to home, to my husband, my now husband, and I transitioned to a senior internal auditor role at Vanderbilt University. And I've enjoyed my time there, learned a lot, and I'm very grateful to be here at Western Kentucky and learn all the great work that's being done across campus and build partnerships with the various functions across campus. And thank you all again for the welcome, and I'm looking forward to doing some great work with all of you.
We're all impressed with her, who we were, and
No doubt in our minds when we talk to you. You got the person. Thank you, Jesse. All right, moving on to our first agenda, FB1, approval of personnel actions.
It's just a standard personnel actions and one-time payments for the final quarter of the year. And so, as I said, when I met with Shane and David, we really had no issues with those on the list. So,
comments about this item? I'll entertain a motion to approve FB1 from
Moved.
Second, George, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign? All right, motion carries. That is my short of it.
Thanks, Chairman Kenny, and once again, thank you. Your committee's work over the last year. Appreciate all that you've done. We next turn to our Student Affairs Committee, Chair Henson.
Thank you, Chair Bear. Chair Bear. I'm sorry, Cody. Chair Higdon. I'm sorry, Philip. I'm moving on. I'm sorry. Sorry,
Not too fast.
my brain was thinking, don't say that, because it kept popping in my head, and I said it anyway. I'm sorry.
Feeling the way.
Ethan, would you like to take over since I'm blundered so badly?
Thank you, Chair Henson. Thank you, Chair Higdon. Thank you, Chair Bell. Thank you. I'm glad to come before you today with an information update from our living learning communities for our first year village that we will kick off this fall. So I hope to be the human interest story today from a special budget meeting to this committee meeting. But to do so, I have a talented staff cast who is going to come up and present on this program and its program development. We started this conversation last fall, introduced the conversation of the new iteration of the living learning communities, and we're going to give you an update of how we're doing and where we are, what this program looks like. And what is most important about this program is it's a foundation for the evolution of our first year experience at Western Kentucky University, but more importantly, it is an exceptional example of this cross-divisional partnership that we have with ESE and with academic affairs and what we've been able to achieve together. It's really exciting. There's a great synergy and great development from this experience, and we're going to continue to work with this. And it's a great hallmark of what we're going to do. So let me invite the talented people up here to provide you with some input and information about this program. So Sierra Waller, Mark Lunchik, Blair Jensen, Dina Super, please join me for the room. We have a brief presentation to provide you with an update on that program. I think we'll pull it up. And Blair, I think you're kicking us off, aren't you? We'll give you the driver's seat.
All right.
So please.
Well, good morning, all members of the board. It's an honor to be here presenting alongside my colleagues from across our divisions to provide you with a brief update and our progress as it pertains to living learning communities. So we thought we would start with some information first about our students. So as a reminder, we will be onboarding 22 living learning communities here at WKU come fall 2021. Of those 22, 13 are academically based. The remaining 9 are interest or interdisciplinary based living learning communities. Those 22 living learning communities will be housed in 8 different residence halls on our campus, 6 of which are currently in the first year village. The other 2 include Minton Hall and Rose Harlan Hall. I'm happy to report this morning that we have 833 confirmed living learning community participants, and we are so looking forward to welcome these students home to their new home on the Hill. Now, of these 833 students, 371 will be housed in Normal and Regents halls, with the remaining 462 in the other residence halls on our campus. Of this 833, 30% are currently underrepresented minorities on our campus. So I thought we'd provide you with a brief update on the facilities themselves. So many of you had the opportunity earlier this year to tour Normal Hall. So you've had the opportunity to see the facility itself, but you perhaps haven't seen what really makes kind of a hall a home, which includes our furniture. So we wanted to provide you with that update this morning. So we'll start first with our resident rooms. You can see here pictured all of the furniture that will be provided to each resident of the residence hall room. You can see each student will be provided with a lofted bed, a mattress, a dresser, a desk, and a task chair. That dresser and chair will be on casters, which really allows our students the opportunity to customize their space and make it their own little home away from home. Pictured here are the lounge spaces. Normal and Regents halls are pod-style residence halls comprised of 25 students apiece. So within each pod, there are 12 double occupancy rooms. And in addition to those 24 students, 1 resident assistant, making a total of 25 students per pod. Included in those pods are 2 community-style bathrooms, as well as 2 private bathrooms, and what we are commonly referring to as the living room, a pod lounge. So you can see the furniture that will be featured in these pod lounge spaces on the screen now. Take a step back here and take a look at our lobbies. You'll see in the upper left-hand corner, this is a picture of the normal hall lobby. In the lower right-hand corner, this is a picture of the Regents Hall lobby. So you can see that there's lots of comfortable seating. There's also some task spaces where students can hang out, work on projects, and spaces where they can socialize with one another. In addition, if we look at the Regents Hall lobby photo, you'll see that there is overflow for that dining location. They'll be located on the first floor of that building as well. Then lastly, rounding out our facilities update, wanted to showcase some of the academic spaces within these residence halls. So both normal and Regents halls will feature a classroom space, which you can see pictured in the upper right-hand corner of the screen currently. Those classrooms will hold up to 30 students. The idea here is that students are not only living together in the residence hall floors, but they're also taking classes together, with some of those course sections actually being instructed in the residence hall themselves. So imagine that short commute, right? Just from your residence hall room, right down the stairs to your classroom for your classes. You'll also see pictured here on the left-hand side of the screen are study spaces. So there are study spaces located throughout the residence halls, on the residence hall floors, and on the first floors of those residence halls, as well as our faculty office spaces that are located in the photo in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. So we're inviting our faculty fellows that are sponsoring each of our living learning communities to host office hours in the residence halls and engage on a personal level with students participating in these very important programs. So next I'm going to hand the clicker off to my colleagues, Sierra and Marco. We're going to talk with you a little bit about our Faculty Fellows program.
Thank you so much, Blair. So Sierra and I wanted to chat with you a little bit about the Faculty Fellows program, which I think is a very innovative twist in the Living Learning Community program. And on your right-hand side, you will see the names of the faculty who are participating in the Living Learning Community Faculty Fellow program. And I just want to take a minute to pause and think about what's behind these names and the fact that these faculty signed up to lead living learning communities. They did so last spring, right? If you can imagine teaching and laboring in the springtime and thinking ahead and signing on to do something that's pretty pioneering at Western Kentucky University and something that I think is going to set us apart from other universities in the Commonwealth. And this list wouldn't have come together had we as a university not come together to work on this, right? From President Caboni to Provost Stevens to Dr. Logan, and then the incredible support from the dean's offices and the department heads, right? So it was truly a collective effort to bring this program together. And so we're incredibly excited about this program for three reasons. One, Western Kentucky University distinguishes itself in terms of its teaching. And in the LLC communities, what we will find is that the teaching is even further innovative in three ways. One, it will be personalized. Two, it will be experiential, right? There will be a lot of hands-on activities and a lot of events that ask students to apply what they've learned in the classroom outside of the classroom. And three, there will be a high degree of professionalization. So in all these three ways, we think that the living learning communities will be a standout. Second, the faculty fellows will not only be crucial in the classroom, but also outside the classroom, helping students transition socially. As we know, this can be a tough time for our students, and the faculty fellows will develop personalized relationship with the students and also make sure that the students within the living learning communities develop relationships with each other. And then finally, something that I'm especially passionate about is that students develop a sense of belonging to Western Kentucky University and to Bowling Green. And the faculty fellows will be crucial in identifying events and programs that will bring various parts of the campus to the living learning community, as well as bring Bowling Green to campus. And my wonderful colleague, Sarah Waller, will tell you about some concrete examples of how this will take place.
So as a start, we'd like for you to hear from one of our faculty fellows. We're going to play the first 20 seconds of this video, which is one of our faculty fellow spotlights by Dr. Don Winters.
Hi, I'm Dr. Dawn Winters, and I'm the Faculty Fellow for the Citizenship and Social Justice Living and Learning Community. I'm so happy that you decided to check into this LLC. I've been a Hilltopper since 2002 as a student. I became a faculty member in 2008, and I've taught classes in English, linguistics, literacy, and criminology.
And so what we would like for you to see with the Faculty Fellow Spotlight videos, we're partnering with our University Marketing and Office of Admission to utilize our faculty members in the recruitment process to allow them to connect with our students before they even step foot on campus. But what better way to start with a fellow Hilltopper recruiting some of our future Hilltoppers to the Hill, and also getting them excited about our LLC programming activities that we have on our next slide. So while that is booting up, awesome, thank you. Guys are quick and I'm slow. An example of one of our LLCs where we want to introduce you to a little bit about the programming and the faculty involvement is with our Leadership and Communication LLC. This LLC is an interdisciplinary LLC, meaning that it's open to any WKU major and student. This LLC will be led by Dr. Ren Mills in conjunction with Dr. Heather Strode, and they've worked to center their program activities around themes of leadership and communication, and looking at that in a different lens. So exposing students culturally and with global awareness through our Bowling Green International Festival, thinking about building the foundation of communication and that trust through our WKU Challenge course, and working alongside our students, allowing them to be a part of the process. The participants in this LLC will get to hand select campus and community leaders that they would like to see as guest speakers. As we've heard earlier today about our new programs and certificates coming in, our LLCs fit very nicely into that. The linked courses in some of our LLCs not only count towards a student's major and culinary requirements, some of them also count towards WKU certificates. In this LLC in particular, students will end their first year with 6 hours towards the organizational leadership certificate and the workplace communication certificate, which allows our students from day one to be thinking about how they can enhance their WKU degrees and their experiences heading into the career field. Also, we know that this cannot be done by our faculty fellows alone. This will be a team effort. All of our LLCs will have affiliated faculty and staff members within and across their disciplines. In particular, one of our affiliated faculty members here in the room will be President Caboni with the Leadership and Communication LLC. Also, we will have our instructors, Professor Heather Strode and Professor Charlotte Elder, working in this LLC. And we hope that these teams will help to create innovative pedagogy, engagement inside and outside of the classroom, and mentorship of our students, and also providing that well-rounded representation of the great faculty and staff members and student ambassadors that we have on campus. And having this team will also lead us to thinking about how we evaluate and assess these programs. And I am going to hand that over to Daniel as he will speak to our goals and objectives and assessment.
Yeah, great. So thanks. That was all the very exciting part. So I promise not to bring the energy down with the academic components here of program design and assessment. But I mean, if you can imagine 800 plus students, 22 plus communities, and that's just going to keep growing. We have to think like organizationally, how are we leveraging this in a common experience, right, across these disparate communities? So this team, you know, Chair Higdon, soon to be Chair Bale, but Chair Higdon said, we're talking about being all in. These people are all in. You can tell by the passion in their voice, like they care about students and they care about creating infrastructure at this university that like-minded people can plug into to engage with students. And I think that's what LLCs represent. You know, many times we talk to colleagues who they care so much, staff, faculty, they care so much about student success, but it's like, how do I engage in meaningful ways beyond just a one-on-one of the happenstance of who's in my class that semester, or you know who happened by my office? And LLCs give us that opportunity for a very focused, bounded group of students to really, you know, adopt them, so to speak, and carry them through. So you'll see here that from the literature, there are 7 common first-year experience outcome domains. And while LLCs are amazing, they're a high impact practice, they're excellent, it's an excellent tool, they can't do whatever. And so the first component that we had to consider is what are we going to leverage LLCs for on this campus in light of the overall first year experience? And we chose these 3: retention, academic skills, and connection to campus. And once you orient yourself in that direction, then you can start systematically building out what this program looks like. And so, again, this team very laboriously and probably with great patience with myself, we worked our way through, oh, there we go. We worked our way through creating these 3 goals. They also align with what the literature says have the largest effect size on students. And that is that students experience a smooth academic transition, that they experience a smooth social transition, and they develop a sense of belonging. And what we know, those of you who have organized large scale programs, you don't activity your way, you don't program your way into achieving a goal. You don't. This is aspirational. It's kind of the end game and where we're orienting ourselves. So then I lost control here. That's okay. I trust you. The next step was like, we have to break that down. Say, if we're going to achieve smooth academic transition, like, what does that mean? What are more specifically, what are the objectives that would be necessary to achieve smooth academic transition? And so this is a logic model. I promise you can exhale. I'm not going to take you through all this, but I just wanted to represent how the objectives in concert achieve the goals. And those of you who are familiar with this as a tool, a logic model, you'll notice that we're missing the column here for activities. That's intentional because, like I opened with, we have 22 communities, 800 students orienting in the same direction with the flexibility for each of them to deliver their programming uniquely to the needs of their community, all achieving the same objectives and the same goal. And so this is just a visual representation of how that all fits together. I think I'm going to have to trust you again. Nope, you fixed it. So this is how we conceptualize kind of the assessment and the way this is structured. And this is a adaptation of Easton's IAO model. And the idea here is to say outcomes are a function of inputs, but they're also a function of environment. And the reason I really like this as a conceptual model is to say, I don't think I saw Tuesday here or Angela from IR. They are excellent in creating, and they've done an excellent job in institutional research in creating a model of predicting how well students will do based on some of these inputs. Problem with that is those things are static. Like, once they get to us, what do we do about it? And what's exciting in thinking about how we're structuring LLCs and the way we're conceptualizing them is it matters what they come into. And so the way we're planning to assess this and kind of the conceptual understanding of this is, if we want to achieve these outcomes, we need to account for those things, statistically, methodologically, and those kind of considerations to see the effect of LLCs and how we can leverage this moving forward. So finally, just to demonstrate to you that we've been intentional, we've been strategic, and we've created a plan. I've just put one goal on the screen instead of all 3, just to demonstrate how you'll see, if that's the goal, these are the objectives everyone's aiming at. We have a plan for data collection, for timelines, for procedures, for responsible parties, to kind of wrangle 22 communities, 800 plus students, all headed in the same direction, and say, what does it look like to experience an LLC at WKU? And so the last thing I'll say, and I'd be remiss to say this, we have to consider how challenging it is to come in as a first-year student. It's challenging. I mean, many times it's a chasm that's like 2.5 months long in a student's life. 2.5 months from being a senior to being a freshman, but it's a chasm. And even more so if the last 1.5 years, they've experienced COVID school, right? And so I think it's incumbent on us, and I think it's demonstrated here well by our investment in LLCs, to say we have a systematic infrastructural plan to plug our resources in to receiving you and to carrying you through that very crucial first year, academically, socially, and by a sense of belonging. And so that's kind of the program design, the structure, and the assessment, very broad overview of how we're planning to approach this systematically. Any questions for any of us, not just myself?
I think this is one of the most exciting things that happened at this university or any university in the Commonwealth, probably for maybe decades, I don't know. But I wonder how much communication is going to go on between the LLC and the Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning, which I think has great ability to collaborate.
We've already begun. We've met with the LLC faculty fellows in May. In fact, we had an optional meeting in May, and all the participants signed up, right? And so we thought, we don't know how many faculty are going to come back 2 weeks after the semester ended for this workshop, and they all came. And additionally, we're going to have another workshop that we've all collaborated on in August, a half a day. So that's the way we're getting started. And then Blair and Housing and Res Life has lots of experience in LLCs, and we're going to continue their tradition of doing monthly meetings with our faculty fellows.
Seems like a marriage made in heaven.
We're very grateful for the opportunity to partner and to work together across divisions to best serve our students.
Jane, I know you had some comments.
I'm just going to say, as someone who had been out in the community and had neighbors bring their kids to my house and say, please help them, they don't know what they're doing, and trying to get into the university and going through their emails with them and say, hey, that housing email, you should have responded to that. And hey, this, is their first generation college students. That chasm you talk about, we have no idea what's there. They don't understand the terminology that we use. And this is something I say in my own college all the time. We're using words that have meaning to us, but no meaning to them whatsoever. And, I hear about students who say, they show up to school and they didn't realize they needed to bring things for their dorm. And it just, hey, I had a scholarship, so it's going to be, they don't know what they don't know. So I think embedding faculty with them and helping figure those things out and building those relationships is going to be a great tool there to help. We just don't know what's going to come up and how to get them through that. So that was my first comment. The second thing I want to do is Marco, could you please come back center here for me?
Do I want to?
Yes. So please give us your title again.
I'm the director for the Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning.
I just wanted, in my role in the Student Affairs Committee and the Academic Affairs Committee, I wanted to make sure everyone knew what a hero Marco and his staff was to the campus community for the last year and a half. And when the faculty, you have old guys like me trying to figure out how to connect with students who were in your class last week, and now they're spread all over the world, and they don't necessarily have computers and whatever other hurdles there may be. And to suddenly move it into high gear and all do you have any statistics on all the training sessions your team offered right off the top of your head?
In the past 2 years, we've consulted with approximately 1,100 faculty members. That we've had 1,100 faculty visits, and we collaborate with faculty on 2 levels, with individualized consultations and with holding workshops. And to give you a sense, given the size of our faculty, there are 5 instructional designers working with the entire campus. So the praise really goes to them. They're sort of the heroes of the COVID. And I would like to say that in terms of our center, none of this would be possible without the faculty actually coming to us. And it's been an incredible partnership. And we were just honored to see our faculty rise to the challenge.
So, just as he says, the faculty have to want to improve. There are some expectations that we would try to do that, but I'm a full professor. I don't have to do that anymore. I can just ignore my students, right? But many people stepped up to try to bridge that into. It was a resource that I think we did not fully appreciate it until it happened. And I appreciate your team stepping up into that gap and working as hard as you did. So I wanted to make sure everyone knew.
I appreciate the shout out.
Anyone else have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I have just a comment I'd like to make. I feel compelled to call out Dr. Sells, because what we're doing here is something we've seen through the ISEC program for the last 2 or 3 years. And it's, I know that my wife and I are involved in it, but I give all the credit to her and her staff, and being able to do it at the community level for students of color who are first generation, and then being able to see this expanded across the university and the engagement of faculty, I think is a huge plus. But I do want to recognize that when I looked at some of the results that she was able to create, and then what I heard here, that really being now campus wide, I think that's exactly the innovation that we were referencing, the strategic initiatives that we were referencing earlier, that those things actually have been going on at the university. And now it's nice to see that they've been expanded and that we're going to be able to touch and impact more of our students. Because that's really, I think this has been said earlier, that's what this is all about. It's not about the faculty, it's not about parents, it's about how do we bring students in, get them active, get outcomes that we want, but more importantly, it's not just outcomes, it's impact. And when at the end of the day, I always think about, just because I graduated someone doesn't mean anything. Did I actually help them impact the way they live their life? And so I'm excited to hear this, and also excited that I'm sure that Dr. Sales has been involved in the process, and some of the things that we've been involved in are now something that is in a much broader aspect for the university and impacting the students and the young people that come to us to help for their future. So I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Could I ask you to stand up? George, I just asked her to stand up. You want to do an introduction of our Martha?
I don't know that I can. I mean, I don't know the words. I think she does it on her own. I probably would try to do it and then I'd get in trouble. And she said, I can't believe you didn't say this or you didn't say that. This is Dr. Sales. And I'll tell you that for CJ and I to be supporters of the university, and for us to have the honor and the privilege to be able to be a part of this program. This is not anything to do with us other than the thrill of us being able to see dedicated faculty and staff at the university committed to students, helping them, and us being a part of it. But this right here, Dr. Sales is the leader of that. And her energy, her excitement, her passion, and her expertise is just goes beyond. And when I tell people across the country about what's going on at Western, I always give them a different name of the person who leads the effort, because I don't want anyone coming back trying to steal Dr. Sales.
Thank you. And Dr. Sales, our interim dean of students. Yes. And did you see her flashy sunglasses, George, or her flashy glasses, George?
I can only see something, and I wasn't going to ask what it was, She's
very fashionable today as well. Well, Dr. Logan, team, thank you all. This has been an excellent. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, Regents, if I could just.
Can I remember your name?
So,
And what's your title?
So there are very few things that in one's career that you're going to remember forever. And investiture, when we talked about the first year village, I know people didn't understand in some ways what that meant. It was really shorthand for taking down 2 dorms and putting 2 new buildings up. And I impressed upon everyone to not think of that this way, but to think about how this could be transformative for that undergraduate experience. How can we embed the academic literature in what we do, and how do we work to partner academics with student life in a way that enhances our efforts in retention, success in performance, academic performance, and integration into the community. And what you see here is 4 years of work that was really done quietly for many people, behind the scenes, and is an outcome of the investment and the choices that we made strategically as an institution. People say, what's the vision and what does it mean to be a student-centered applied research institution? This is it. And this is a differentiator. This means when you come to WKU at a $10,000 price point in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, you're getting an Oxbridge model that's only done at the best universities in the world. And this is transformative for our young people, and it's exactly what they deserve. And so thank you to the group for all of your work and your commitment to the project, but more importantly, your commitment to our students and their success.
Dr. Logan, Presentation, it's energetic. I'm so glad we're here in person together again. Watching you all on Zoom would not be near as exciting as watching you all here today. And the enthusiasm you all have for the LLC is unbelievable because I'm now energized, and I loved it when we toured it the last time we had our meeting. I thought I wished I had been here, or wish they'd had those dorms. I was in Gilbert Hall in the Valley of the Dolls, and I would love to be in this dorm and what you all have developed there, and it's just fabulous. And I just listened to you all. I'm so excited. Thank you for a great presentation, and it's always good to see you, Dr. Logan, and your team. Thank you.
Thank you.
Julie, I will say this, that I wish I were there in the room, but I will tell you on Zoom, you could hear and feel the energy.
Good,
So
George.
it
Good.
did come through.
Good. Because, when we've been doing so many Zoom calls, sometimes it's hard to get that enthusiasm. If you were here, I am excited, and I might even drive fast going back. Might even get one of those speeding tickets. I haven't had them in a while, so you just never know. But that wraps up my report. Thank you, Chair Higdon.
Thank you, Chair Henson. This is what is called being all in. Off script. I think we probably need to have a spontaneous award for the conclusion of our programming this past year and award it to Henson for the most challenging, innovating presentations of information items of all the committees. I'm sorry, other committees, but she just walked.
Here, here.
Yay, let's give it to Dr. Logan. Dr. Logan.
Thank you, thank you. Well, that concludes our committee reports for today, Dr. Bowden.
Before we continue, I have one announcement that I would like to call on Dean Corinne Murphy to help share with you. You may recall earlier in the meeting, I talked about $2 million federal grants and how important two of them and how important those are. We announced yesterday a transformative investment in our institution from the federal government that will help shape counseling for the Commonwealth and beyond. And Corinne, if you would take just a minute or two to help folks understand the significance of this grant in the history of the College of Education, the university, but also what it does.
Yes, so we are we're beyond excited. So this is a 1.92 million, to be very specific, almost $2 million award that will be used over the next 4 years to support our counseling students, our counseling faculty, and our community as we engage together to really respond to what is a continually increasing need for social emotional learning, trauma-informed care, and just the overall mental wellness of our community. Of course, we did not anticipate that there was also going to be a pandemic to increase and exacerbate the need for this area. And so it certainly reflects on the work that our counseling program has done over the last 4 years. In 2017, there were 15 graduate students in this program. And as of today, there are 50 graduate students in this program on a continual basis. We are leading the region in managing and supporting community wellness and mental health. And so even as far as Owensboro, they're just ecstatic that we're going to be able to do this. We will use it to recruit and retain through supplemental stipends. These are working professionals. Anything that we can do to provide them additional support relieves them from second jobs or third jobs as they are working professionals and adult learners in our graduate programs. And then working with our schools and our community support centers, we'll be able to provide additional trainings to their current staff, but also for our students to be even better trained than they currently are today as we work to include some additional programming into their experience here on the Hill. So we're excited, very excited.
So let me commend both Dean Murphy and her faculty. These types of federally sponsored grants do not happen overnight. This is a 4-year process to learn and assemble and have grants critiqued. And this is exactly the kind of work that we're going to continue to press upon across the enterprise in the coming years. When we talk about research and we talk about scholarship, there are lots of different ways for us to conceptualize this. But one of the places we're going to place a bet and make even more of an emphasis is on federally sponsored investments in our institution. And that does lots of things. It transforms us in terms of what we do for the student experience and applied learning. It creates buzz and interest, not just in the Commonwealth, but regionally. It also provides budgetary support and indirect cost recovery and helps us to reinvest and re-energize and grow again the research enterprise. And so I'm very excited for their accomplishments with this grant, another $2 million grant coming into her college as well. Per capita, when your College of Education is leading the sponsored research world, we're going to put some pressure on the other colleges to step up their games to compete as well. So congratulations, Corinne.
We welcome them to come.
No sense.
So we need to go into executive session
I move that the board go into closed session as provided in KRS 61.810 for the following discussion of proposed or pending litigation against or on behalf of the university.
Second.
have a motion and a second, Regent Brinkley. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.